Hi everyone, it's Darlene. Welcome back for another card video. Today's card uses the Altenew set called Oriental Orchid. I thought I'd give this one a shot. I'm going to be using all 4 of these flowers along with the little ones in the top. I also have some Altenew inks. They come in 4 mini cube packs. I've got the green ones and the purple ones. I'm going to start off by first arranging my stamps the way I'm going to stamp them on my cardstock. And I'm going to stamp the stem first. So I'm going to take a Post-it, which is going to mask the top, and I'm going to move these stamps out of the way. Now the stem that comes with this, I'm using the outline stem, but there is a solid one as well. And I've curved it on my block. So it actually is straight, but I've curved it. I'm going to ink it up with some VersaFine sepia ink. And I'm going to kind of curve it around toward the bottom because it's going to wrap my sentiments. So I'm going to put that bottom flower there so I could see exactly where it's going to meet up with those flowers. And then I'll move it out of the way and stamp it down. After that's done, I'm going to stamp the flowers. There is a black mini cube that comes in the green pack, so I've pulled that out and I'm going to stamp all 4 of these flowers, just the outline portions, and these each have 3 additional steps to them, all of these flowers. So I'm going to kind of curve it off to the right, and I decided to do all 4 of them at the same time. And then I'm going to do the part of the branch that comes out of the top. So now I've inked up the top portion of that stem, and I'm going to stamp it down using the same VersaFine ink. So because I don't have any branches in between the flowers, because I didn't want to have to mask all those flowers, I just took a chocolate chip marker by Stampin' Up, and I'm just going in there with my fine tip to just add a little bit of a branch here and there. And rather than stamping the solid image that coordinates with this outline image, I decided to just sort of sketch in my chocolate chip marker so that it wasn't a solid image, it was kind of sketched in. It looked a little bit more artsy that way. There are a lot of flowers in this set. It also comes with these 2 buds, and the buds have a little tiny branch attached to them so that you can hang them off really easily from this main stem. Next, I'm going to stamp all the different colors. So I found the easiest way to line these up is to lay them down on my craft mat just exactly as they appear on the stamp set. So I put them in the exact same direction. So the nice thing about this set is that you can easily see how to line them up. I'm going to use the first, the second, and the purple. So the lightest, the second lightest, and then the darkest purple. So I'm going to skip that third one, but I'm going to bring it back later for the buds. I'm using my MISTI so I can really see how I'm stamping this down before I actually stamp my colors. The first one is a solid stamp, and it was pretty easy to line up. And the nice thing about these inks is that they don't dye your stamps, so they don't stain them. And that way, you know, sometimes when you're using multi-step stamps and you've used them quite a bit, the stain is kind of blocking or obstructing your view of how to get it lined up. And so this ink did not stain the stamp at all. And so I'm just processing through this. I've got my second darkest one now, and then the final one is kind of a really pretty dark violet purple. And as I said, these stamps are much easier to line up, I think, than some of the other previous Altenew stamps. So I just kept going on the remainder of these flowers. For the last ones, for the buds, I decided I could just stamp them at the same time. So I put them both down with color at the same time. So here are all the flowers stamped. I really like the colors of this purple set. I went ahead and trimmed off the bottom and the top a little bit so that I could have some brown matting at the top and bottom. So the next is the leaves. I'm going to stamp them using the MISTI rotated 90 degrees so that I can have some space on the lower left-hand corner for my stamp to hang off. The leaves actually only have 3 steps. So the first one I did an outline in black, and here's my second one, which is the solid stamp in the lightest green. Now for the final stamp, I have 2 colors left but only 1 stamp. So what I decided to do was first stamp it in the medium green. So I'm inking it up here with the medium green. I thought that the leaves were a little bit harder to line up than the flowers, but I also didn't think it really made a difference because the leaves don't have a lot of detail to them. So anyway, after I stamped it with the medium green, I moved the stamp just a little bit down, or you could move it a little bit up, and then I inked it up with the darkest green. So this second stamp is just kind of a bunch of lines, and so I just created more lines with a different color. And then I went ahead and did that same exact process with the other leaves. So there are 2 leaves that come with the set, one for the left and one for the right. And I stamped that the third stamp, which is the detail stamp, in 2 different colors. You can see I got some of the green ink, as I usually do with my fingers, on my cardstock. So I'm just going to grab my sanding block, and you can kind of see the powdery, very, very slight powdery substance that comes off just the surface of the paper. But if you really work at it and you're just careful and don't put too much pressure down, you can remove the ink. So you can see the final result there came up pretty good. Next is the sentiment, so I'm going to center it where the flower curves around, and I decided to do the sentiment in 2 different colors. So I'm going to mask off the middle portion, the "so" word, with my surgical tape. I usually put a couple of layers of tape to make sure that the ink doesn't seep through. For the top and the bottom, I'm going to be using my sepia, the same color that I stamped my stem in. And once I get it inked up, I'll remove that surgical tape. And that way my stamp is all blank, and then I'll stamp it down. I thought that I got some pretty good coverage with this vintage sepia, so I decided to not stamp it again. For the "so", I decided to stamp it in the darkest of the purples. So now I'm going to mask the top and the bottom, and I'll take my little ink cube and ink it up really well and stamp it down. These ink cubes are pretty juicy, so I don't have any problems. I did notice that my S on the bottom was a little smudged. I'm not sure if it was because I didn't have enough ink or maybe my surgical tape got in the way, but I decided to go ahead and mask it and stamp it one more time just to make sure I get a good image in that big word in the middle. I don't know what was wrong with me today, but I got more ink, this time purple, above the flowers. So I grabbed my sanding block again and started sanding it out, and it really only takes a couple of minutes to get this ink out, but you just have to be really careful and patient. I cut a piece of Stampin' Up! Early Espresso cardstock, and now I'm going to use my tape runner to adhere my flower panel to it. And then I'll adhere this to a card base, which is Nina Solar White. It's always my favorite card base to use. And I'm just going to adhere it to the card base right here. And I wanted a little sparkle, like a little shimmer, so I took my Wink of Stella clear pen and I colored over all the areas that had the darkest purple. So the centers of all these orchids, and then I also colored over the big word "so" in the middle, just to make it stand out a little bit and just to add a little extra interest to the card. And that is the card for today. I have to tell you that I really, really like this Altenew set. I have the vintage roses and I still have trouble lining those ones up, but this one was really enjoyable. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed that, and I will see you next time. Thanks for watching.